Good morning, Nigeria, and I make you welcome. This is Enterprise Morning, reaching you from Enterprise Television. I am Henry Igwebike. I would love us to start this morning from our newspapers, and right after that will be our main conversation also for today. Please do well to be part of what we do. Have a say in what we say. You can find us, reach us when you visit us at enterprisetvnews.com. You may equally like, comment, and follow us on all our social media platforms at Enterprise TV 7. With me, joining me virtually is Eko John Nicholas. He is the National Coordinator Food and Farmers Rights Campaign, FFRC, and equally the Coordinator Campaign for Democratic and Workers' Rights, CDWR, Ogun State Chapter. Good morning to you, Mr. Nicholas, and thank you so very much for your time.
Good morning for having me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much for giving us your time as usual. So let's start today with newspapers, and just to see what we have. We have 4 newspapers. I just hope we have enough time to go through some of them, peruse through some of them. But let's begin the day with the Guardian newspaper. We have the big story there. Real estate investors wary as demolitions flatten over 2,500 houses. We equally have on the top strip, U.S. conduct surveillance flight over Nigeria after Trump's threat. We equally have other matters. Troops kill 17 Boko Haram ISWAP terrorists in Borno. We equally have other matters. Bago receives 130 rescued school children in Niger. And equally, tax row escalates as groups allege altered law call for mass action. We equally have other matters from the same newspaper, that's the Guardian newspaper. Federal government mandates the dope test for federal public servants and applicants. I would love us to start with there, Mr. Nicholas, if you may. Federal government mandates dope test for federal public service applicants. Does that really, is it necessary at this point?
So, hello sir, please come again. I didn't get that.
Yeah, so we have it from the Guardian newspaper that the federal government to mandate dope test, that is drug test, for federal public service applicants. So if you want to get a job with any federal public service parastatal, it's required that you take a dope test. The question is it truly necessary? If it is, what greatness would that be to such parastatal?
Yes, I missed the point there.
Yes.
The federal government said.
Yes, so I said the federal government, all right, is insisting that anyone that wants to get the job now must have to pass through dope, that is drug test. So the question is it that too necessary?
Okay, that everyone that wants to get a job should pass through drug test.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Well, for me, I think it's very ridiculous to say that anybody that wants to get a job has to go through a drug test. It's neither here nor there. I think it only shows that the federal government itself seems to be losing, bite of everything around it. I don't know. At this very point where unemployment is on the high side, people can hardly get a job. I think it's just a means of making securing job of the government, the federal government at that. Securing employment under the federal government to become extremely difficult for the children of the working and poor masses. That is what it is. Because you can be sure, at the end of the day, it's not just going to be that test alone. There will be other stringent conditions or conditionalities that will be attached in order to ensure that the children of the ordinary people don't get to get a job from the federal, parastatal ministry, agency and the likes of it. It is in their character. But in any event, you can be sure that even that drug test, those that will eventually get that job, the children of the politicians, the children of the business class, they will not have to go through those tests before they secure that job. We are in this country, it does happen. Sometimes when the federal government advertises for a job and the people apply, especially the children of the mass of the ordinary people, they applied. At the end of the day, after they have, be screened, they have met all the necessary requirements, at the end of the day, they don't get the job. It is those who never attended interview, who has the necessary connections, that can put the necessary strength within the politician and those in corridors of power, that eventually gets the job. So for me, it's just a mere distraction. What the government should be doing is to be investing in social sectors, in agriculture, in infrastructure, in health, and all that. Launching a mass scheme where job can be generated for the mass of the unemployed youth that are presently roaming the streets. So the idea of drug tests and things like that, how many of the politicians are tested on drug before they pick up the form for elective position? In the APC, in the PDP, how many of them were tested, for drug before they were elected? So for me, it's a mere distraction. And I think that it doesn't hold water. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so very much, Mr. Nicholas. But let's take a look at other matters from the Vanguard newspaper. We have it that diplomatic spat with U.S. on religious violence resolved. That's coming from the federal government. Remember, we unfortunately don't even know what to believe again whenever the federal government says what it wants to say. It's more of a propaganda. This administration is riding on propaganda, unfortunately. So for us in the media, it's often very difficult to know when the federal government is standing on the truth or when they are not. But do you think that the issue with U.S. is resolved with what the federal government has said? And most recently, we just saw that the U.S. government had carried out an aerial surveillance in Nigeria. So does that mean that what the federal government is saying is a blatant lie?
Of course, you know that this Tinubu administration is administration of gaslighting, it's administration of propaganda, it's administration of lie, and it's administration of blackmail. Of course, the government made this sound or made it look like they are working together with the U.S. government. That is how they portray the picture of the U.S. surveillance. And it was said that the aircraft that actually carried out that surveillance took off from Accra, Ghana. And it has been doing the surveillance, all over and things like that in relation to, the security, the heightened security, challenges we are presently having in Nigeria. But the fact is that the federal government of Tinubu, as led by Tinubu, cannot be trusted. When they tell you it's money, you have to look again to be sure that we are not enough to know. So that is the level, that is how low the government has gone. In all this narrative, since this issue of heightened security came into being and the U.S. threat to intervene, what has changed? What has the government done differently? I think these are the questions we should be asking ourselves. All the material conditions that has given rise to the present insecurity we are currently experiencing, even though it didn't start with the Tinubu government, has there been any concerted effort to ensure that all these issues are addressed? I think these are what we should be talking about, not the propaganda the government has been dishing out to the mass of the public.
All right, so let's take a look at other matters, especially with the newest of them all, that is the tax issue. And the federal government is saying that we did not alter tax laws, while the reps, our parliaments, are saying, some of them, not all of them, especially those that are not standing on the mandate currently, are saying that they cannot pass a law that lots of things are missing in there. So at this point, this is more like a follow-up of the last question. Who do we believe at this point? The federal government has sold us to France, and they said they didn't sell us to France, and so many other issues. How bad is this situation, Nicholas?
The situation is extremely bad. I mean, to be frank and candid. The point is this. Of course, you will know that a few days ago, I think the chairman on the tax or whatever at the House of Representatives has actually issued a press statement where the House was calling for a review of the tax law. And just as you have said, the House said that it was not what was passed that was later gazetted by the government, that what was passed into law that was signed by the president was later altered before it was gazetted. And on that basis, they are calling that it must not be implemented come January 1st when the tax law is supposed to take effect. And that there is a need for the House, to review it and be sure that some of those alterations that have been made by the government are addressed. Of course, that in itself has also shown to you that this government is never sincere with the demands of, Nigerian citizenry, especially in issues that affect the lives of the people. We were told that when subsidy is removed, that there will be life abundance for the mass majority of the people, yes. That Nigeria will become an El Dorado, quote and unquote, that the money realized from subsidy removal, that those money will be invested in education, in health, just name it, and that life will become better for the mass majority of the people. Today, subsidy has been removed. Nigerian government is making more money. The state governments are making more money, and yet the lives of the mass majority of the citizenry has gone from bad to worse. Inflation is on the rise. Disposable income is extremely low. Nigeria can barely eat. Of course, there's this joke of dirty December now turned to dirty December. Turned to dirty Christmas, quote and unquote. Is that bad? So this government cannot be trusted. For me, even when I know that the House of Assembly have become a rubber stamp of the government, but just as you have pointed out, those who are not standing on the mandate that seems to be sitting, that are still sitting, have said that the government has actually altered the tax law and are calling and demanding that it has to be reviewed. And I think that how we go for those who are still sitting down, who are not standing on the mandate, and we should be demanding. It's not just altering or whatever. The entire tax law has to be abrogated. It is part of the anti-poor policies of the government that are meant to keep the poor people to be continued to poor and live in poverty, just as the subsidy removal, the devaluation of the naira, increment in electricity tariff, hike in education is in line with the IMF recommended anti-poor policies of the government. So we are demanding it has to be withdrawn. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much. I really love your passion for this, and it breaks my heart, really. President Bola Tinubu should be on the Guinness Book of Records as the most luckiest Nigerian. Throughout his trajectory, his political career, it's been a very smooth one. This would have been a wonderful opportunity for him to write his name, etch his name in the books of history, such that like Nelson Mandela, he would be remembered. What then is the problem with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu? He has everything in the world. During their inauguration, the wife said they are not coming to steal Nigeria's money. But several months after, in the supplementary budget, close to 2 billion was made available for her office that is not even constitutionally recognized. What then do you think is the quest of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu not having his name written in the edge of history?
Thank you very much. You forgot to add that the first son, that is Sheyi Tinubu, now goes about with almost a battalion of army and police and the likes of them that should be used to begin to address the issue of security. You have not said that. Yeah. That even when the father have said that there is a need to withdraw police from VIP so that they can be made available to tackle the issue of insecurity, yet his son goes about with with army of security. Police, army, what they call civil defense and the likes of them. that are securing him. A private citizen, for that matter, just for being the son of the president. So they have to give him that amount of, that number of security to be protecting him. I mean, the hypocrisy stinks. The hypocrisy still stinks. And that is just it. What is the quest of Bola Ahmed Tinubu that he cannot write his name in the Guinness Book of Records? He is already writing his name in the Guinness Book of Records, sir. He is writing his name in the Guinness Book of Records as the most undemocratic president, as the most tyrannical president, as a president who has, eroded all the democratic, rights that have been won over the years. He has become, the president that has ensured that human rights has been abused. Just name it. He has become, he has made a record for being the worst president that Nigeria can ever, had. And the point is this: it's not accidental that Bola Ahmed Tinubu is what he is. He has always been. Everything that brought him to power was woven around propaganda. They were all propaganda. We were told he's a strategist. We were told he built Lagos. We were told he did so many wonders in Lagos. And now he's at Abuja. How many of those wonders have you seen him, replicated positively? But rather, all the negative wonders that he has done in Lagos, he has taken the baggage to Abuja and he has beginning to replicate it. This is not just theory. Concrete reality, we have seen it. Inflation is on the rise. People can hardly eat. December is here. Tomorrow is Christmas. There are families that are going to go empty stomach to bed tomorrow. Unemployment is on the rise. Healthcare is nothing to write about. Even the infrastructure road that he claims to be building, let's for the sake of argument, that he's building road. At what amount? Inflation. The contracts are inflated. People. The political class are corruptly enriched. You get it. And he has been buying everybody over. Any voice of dissent, he ensures he buys it over. And that is where we are today. So it's not accidental. It has always been. But Tinubu cannot change. He's sick. He's die in the sick. He's dying in Kotiwu. So it cannot be washed away. So it's his style. He has always been like that. But the point is this: it's not about the president as a person. It's about the system we run. It's a systemic issue. And he couldn't have done otherwise. And as I said at my last interview on your television station, that the capitalist system that we run, that is built on profit for a few minority as against the needs of the majority, can only result to what we are experiencing now: barbarism, corruption, mismanagement. Just name all the ills and malices in the society. That is what that system represents. And don't get me wrong, until we have a semblance of a system that represents the interests of the mass majority, and that system is no other system than a system of socialism, where the economy will be planned and the commanding height of the economy will be taken into control and managed and democratically controlled by the working masses, so that resources that are being trapped in the hands of this political office holder and their business collaborator will be free for the development of society. Anything short of that will just be revolving around the babas, revolving around like a baba's chair. Nothing is going to change.
It's actually very unfortunate, because sometimes when you take a look at some of these things, you ask yourself, who has done this to us? Ghana, for example, Israelis actually deported 3 Ghanaians just a couple of days back, and Ghana retaliated. And Benjamin Netanyahu had no choice but to beg Ghana. So you can see how countries are respected. But just a couple of days back, the United States labeled Nigeria so much so that the president, of course, is not even doing anything about it, and he intends not to do anything about it. But let's take a look at other matters from the Guardian newspaper. Real estate investors worry as demolitions flatten over 2,000 500 houses. Aren't you surprised that Lagos, which is a crown colony, in the early centuries, you know, Lagos had electricity even before most European countries. Today, when you take a look at Lagos as a city and you compare it to other crown colonies in Africa, you are amazed how that Lagos is not moving as fast as other crown colonies. What do you think is the problem? Oworoshoki has been leveled. Lots of things are going on. Investors, real estate investors are even scared investing in Lagos because they are not sure if their properties will be secured in the next 20 years. So what's your take on this, Mr. Nicholas?
Well, number one is to say that the real estate investors, I mean, when we say the real, I mean the real investors in estate. Those ones are not crying, no. They are not crying. They are making more profit now. In fact, it has been alleged that even the demolition of Oworoshoki is meant to be sold to the real estate magnate. Thank you. So the real estate people, the main one, no, we are not talking of the middle or the ordinary one. They are not crying. In fact, they are smiling to the bank. Sure, you get it. You see, Lagos cannot be otherwise. Why all the amenities that make city to be a mega city or that make city has semblance of sanity is missing in Lagos State? Is it housing? Housing is deficit? Is it water? Is it health? Just name them. But why all these catastrophes are happening in Lagos? The individuals, the political class that are manning Lagos State, they are becoming fatter and fatter with the public money. They are becoming richer. So it's not accidental. It still boils down to the system we are talking about. It's not just about Lagos. All the major cities in Nigeria is not just city, town, rural villages. Name them. No drinking water. Healthcare delivering is in comatose. Industry have closed down. Education is collapsed. I don't know. Just name it. Nothing is working. The only people things are working for. Because if you say things are working, if healthcare is working, why would the political class, the ruling class, be going abroad to go and treat themselves even when they have Qatar and co? If the education system is functional and is working, why would they be educating their worlds in the best of every, whatever all over the world, the best of university all over the world? I mean, if water is working, public water system, why would there be pure water borehole everywhere? Every household now has its own borehole. In fact, in Nigeria, sir, every landlord is a government to himself. He makes his own road to his house. He does his own electricity through solar power or generator. I mean, he drills his own borehole to supply water. Just name it. In fact, we are government on our own. The government don't hardly do anything. What you hear about government is siphoning our collective, commonwealth. The money that are met or that are supposed to be meant to develop society, they make sure they corruptly enrich themselves with it. Is it not a paradox, sir, that a country like Nigeria that flows with milk and honey, yet the majority of its citizenry are homeless, are jobless, they cannot treat themselves at world-class hospital within the country? Just name it. The country has begun to show some signs of a failed state. And this element, the ruling class, are behaving like drunken sailors amidst sinking ship. This level of this level of suffering within the mass of people in the midst of plenty must not be allowed to continue. Something must give at the end of the day. We can't continue like this.
We can't continue like this, really. It's actually very surprising that in 2025, there's no city, no town in Nigeria where there's reliable water, public water. You don't see it anywhere. During the days of the military in the 80s, at least then, every primary school had water. You can always turn off the tap and there's water. But now, unfortunately, with many years of democracy, especially with the Fourth Republic, we've not seen any of that. Does that mean that the military had the semblance of what they know as good leadership? Or is it about discipline on the part of the military against corruption? Even if corruption still existed then, is it the fear of stealing that made the military ensure that public service was provided, as against what we see today with a democracy?
You see, the truth is this, of course, as people will say, that the worst of democracy or democratic system is better than the best of military. Where I think opinion is divided on that.
Yes, because people have said that any politician, Mr. Nicholas, people have said any politician who goes with that quote is a corrupt politician. Because the two are not
Hello,
equal.
sir.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm with you, sir.
Yes. Yeah, so your quote, actually, you said lots of people are divided on that. And lots of people have equally said that any politician who comes with that is a politician that desires to steal. What's your take?
Yes, the point is this. Whether in military or civilian gap, the point is this. As long as this system encourages, corruption, encourages individualism, where individuals can enrich themselves with the resources that is collective, that belongs to everybody, and nothing happens, things like this will continue. But the point is this, sir, it's not just during military. To be fair to some of those politicians, in Ogun State where I reside,
yes,
during the administration of Ibikunle Amosun,
okay,
I am a farmer, as you know, and I'm a poultry farmer. All through Ibikunle Amosun's period, and this is not to give him, this is not to begin to eulogize him.
Yeah.
But the point was that during Ibikunle Amosun, in the 8 years Ibikunle Amosun spent, in power, we had public water supply in Ijebu-Ode here.
Really?
Yes, water was flowing. In fact, I never bought water to run my poultry.
Wow. Because
my poultry was within the community. I was using public water. So it's not just that we just condemn. Where they also do, some semblance of, investment and things like that. We also say it. Sure, you understand.
So
but since we had Dapo Abiodun now,
yeah, Mr. Nicholas, what's the state
he has spent
of
how many years now? No single drop of water from the public taps. Sure, you get it. So the point is this: during military era, there was still some level of, even while they were dictatorial and things like that, what the legacy of public investment, yes, legacy of public investment, of public water, of public transport, of electricity and things like that, they were maintaining it to some level, even while they were stealing and they were corruptly enriching themselves. But when these politicians came, what do? They sold off everything under privatization. You are aware that Lagos State government is planning on privatizing water. Healthcare has been privatized. Education has been privatized. Everything has been handed over to individual. The slogan today, the sing song today among the political class, the ruling class, is that government don't have business in business. I think that is what explains this anomaly that we presently, we are presently experiencing, where no government is making any investment in the social sector. And that is why we are demanding, at the level of the democratic socialist movement, at the level of food and farmers' rights campaign, and at the level of campaign for democratic and workers' rights, that the government must have business in business. You will recall that in the past, government invested in pharmaceutical, government invested in textile, government invested in airway, government invested in land transport, in water transport, name them. But today, all those infrastructure, all those institutions, they have all been sold off to individuals, and they have killed it. Even the public refineries, sir, it's not working. And they are thinking of selling it to themselves. They've made sure that they grinded it. They make sure it doesn't work by promoting the Dangote refinery. And today now, they are thinking of selling it. Some people have been advocating that it should be sold since government cannot manage it. And that is a blackmail. They make it look as if government can't manage business or government cannot run, an entity that will benefit the mass of the people. It's a blackmail on the mass of the people because it is the government does it deliberately by ensuring that all those parastatals, all those institutions, they ensure that they nominate their own cronies who grind all these parastatals and institutions. And that is why, as socialists, we are demanding that in all those parastatals, in all those institutions, there must be workers' democratic control and management to ensure that individual does not take a unilateral decision to run down those entities.
Very well said. Honestly, this is you can't say it better, because that is just what it is. In other countries of the world where things work, government is part of the business of doing that. In China, where every other month millionaires are made, it's because the government invests in its sector, while individuals do the little they can do. Individuals can never be compared to government when it comes to might in any fora, and I do not know why Nigeria is a different case. But we would be back in the beat that is on our main conversation, and Mr. John Nicholas will still be here to take us on the main conversation, and that is the federal government declares kidnappers, bandits as terrorists. A major security shift to happen in Nigeria. That in the beat is still Enterprise Morning. Please don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. And if you just joined us, this is still Enterprise Morning, reaching you from Enterprise Television. Let's head straight to our main conversation for today. The federal government has officially designated kidnappers and violent armed groups operating across Nigeria as terrorists, marking a significant escalation in the country's response to insecurity. The announcement was made by the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, during the federal government's end-of-year press briefing held in Abuja on Monday. Idris explained that the new classification represents a clear shift from treating mass abductions, attacks on farmers, and rural violence as ordinary criminal acts. Under the new policy, such offenders will now be confronted with full counterterrorism measures. He stated that any individual or group involved in kidnapping, attacks on communities, or act of terror would henceforth be treated as terrorists without exception. According to the minister, the decision ends year of what he described as a vague or ambiguous labeling of violent groups operating across the country. He noted that the move will strengthen intelligence gathering, enhance information sharing, and improve coordination among security agencies, allowing for faster and more decisive operations against perpetrators. Idris also addressed Nigeria's recent diplomatic tension with the United States following comments by the U.S. President. Thank you so very much for being back, Mr. Iko John Nicholas. He is the National Coordinator Food and Farmers' Rights Campaign, and equally a member of the Democratic Socialist Movement. Thank you so very much for being back and hanging on.
Thank you very much. Right. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so very much, sir. So let's get talking on this latest designation. For me, it's like old wine in a new wine case. All the while, we have seen terrorists, bandits, kidnappers do what they do, and the federal government have a sit-down meeting with them. The same federal government that's designating them as terrorists always have a sit-down meeting, call it non-kinetic measure of resolving issues. So does it really make any sense that they are designating these bandits as terrorists when we all know it's mere semantics?
Thank you very much. You have said this is mere semantic. I will only add that it is all motion without movement. Without equivocation, there is nothing novel about designating the bandit as terrorists. If you will recall, in 2020, is it 20 now, if I'm not mistaken? I think 2020, November 16, the Honorable Justice Taiwo of the Federal High Court has given order that the bandit should be designated as terrorist. And the federal government the following year, that should be on 5th January, either 5th or 6th January 2021, under President Buhari, former President Buhari, formally designated the bandit as terrorists. That is to ensure that government will now have, the conscience, quote and unquote, and the means to be able to, to deal with those bandits or terrorists, as the case might be, decisively, even if possible, using a lethal, weapon and things like that, in order to address the insecurity that they have posed, to the country, especially within the Northwest and the North Central. But today, we are back 360 degree to where we started before, and it's being sold as if it is something, novel or whatever. See, nothing is going to change. These people know what they are doing. The underground economy of insecurity has become a very huge racket among the ruling elites and their security personnel and the private collaborators through contract awarding of contracts and things like that. The budget that the President Tinubu has just presented to the National Assembly, you will recall that it is the security that has the lion chunk of that budget. And that is to tell you how much, security has been costing, this nation. And yet, with that huge investment, quote and unquote, in security, nothing has absolutely changed. The security has heightened. The bandits have become bolder. They have become more destructive. They have become a monster. And yet, as you have said, what does the government do? They tell us that they want to use the non-kinetic approach by danning and whining with those bandits or security or terrorists, now as the case might be, with the hope that will make them, more amenable, or that will make them to repent. And once that is done again, what do? They go back to do what they are doing. And when they kidnap, as they have been doing, what does the government do? Government go and negotiate with them. And they pay ransom. And yet, they lie to the mass of Nigerians that no ransom was paid and things like that. It's not that this government official, this politician, they don't know where these guys are now. They know where they are. In fact, some of them, most of those bandits are being lionized by section of the ruling elite that they are freedom fighters and that they should be negotiated with. And that is why we have insisted, look, it's not about nomenclature change. If you change the nomenclature 100 times and you don't address the root cause of insecurity, nothing is going to change. Bad governance, poverty, absence of social amenity, joblessness, just name them. These are the drivers of insecurity. The North, especially the Northwest, out of the 10 Northwest states, out of the 10 states in Nigeria, the Northwest, the five of them from the Northwest are the poorest. Not just only that, in all indices of human development or whatever, the Northwest, the government of Northwest come last. So in that kind of settings, why with banditry, kidnapping, and this insecurity we are experiencing now, why will it not flourish? And that is why we are saying, as socialists, that the only way to be able to address this insecurity issue unbiasedly, without partiality, is to make sure that there is what we call a non-sectarian, non-religious, non-ethnic community defense system that are democratically managed by the community themselves. And when necessary, such a community defense committee should be armed to be able to repel the menaces of these bandits.
Yes,
that is the only way we can get out of this quagmire we are experiencing now. The another thing is this, sir.
Can we say that is different from the forest guards that the president and his team wants to bring on board?
No, they are two different things, sir. They are two different things, sir.
So what's the difference?
The forest guards, sir. Is this the first? We used to have the forest guard of old now, don't we? They disbanded it, or if they don't disband it, they made it not functional. So the forest guard the government is proposing is not going to be different from the security they are having now. At the end of the day, it will still become a conduit for siphoning our collective wealth. They are quite different. What we are asking is a non-sectarian, non-religious, non-ethnic, community defense system that are democratically managed and controlled by the community themselves. So they report to the community, and they will not do otherwise. They will not be unilateral. They will not be unilateral in their action. So they must be controlled by the community, by various community, and all those defense systems should be linked together to have a command in every state and things like that to be able to address this issue. Then the other issue that is the driver of this banditry, as we know, is the resource conflicts. Land and resources. Fodders for cattle and water. What effort has the government made to ensure that all these material forces that are giving rise to this banditry or terrorism has been addressed?
But how about
you don't hear them talk about ranching anymore now.
Yes,
you have not heard them talk about building farm settlement or reclaiming the old one and developing it, ensuring that social amenities are put there, schools, health, and everything, so that those nomadic farmers can be settled. Nobody is talking of that. And what they are doing, they are only addressing the symptoms without attacking the disease itself. And what will happen? It will just be intermittent. When they make noise, they negotiate, those guys will go and sempen, they will cool down. After some time again, they come out blazing, or gone out blazing, apology to Trump, and begin to terrorize the community. As long as the government does not do the needful, and that is addressing the material cause of this banditry and linking it up with investment, massive investment in housing, in education, in water, just in agriculture, name all of them, sir, nothing is going to change. After some time again, we'll go back to where we started.
Yes, I'm so excited, that at least you are someone with a deep knowledge in some of these things, especially as the National Coordinator of Food and Farmers' Rights Campaign, that is the FFRC. Now, this designation of bandits and kidnappers as terrorists, one of the key areas that is most affected is food production in Nigeria. Nigeria has so much deficit of food right now as we speak. Even if the federal government is saying inflation in food has come down, but we all know it's as a result of importation, mass importation of food. So don't you think this should be a welcome note and applause, especially from farmers, knowing that this might scare the bandits from not disturbing them and asking them to pay ransom?
Yes, sir, that is the right word. It will scare them for some time. Then when it scares them, they will watch. After some time, they are going to come back more emboldened and more vicious. Food might seem to be available, quote and unquote, or the price might seem to be cheap. But where is the disposable income for people to buy food? People cannot buy food. Sir, I am a fish farmer. As I speak to you now, in Ijebu-Ode, where I ply my trade of fish farming, the fish farmers in Ijebu-Ode here presently are lamenting. They are reading the book of lamentation, resulting from glut of unsold fish, catfish. And yet, the government is not doing anything. And it's not because people don't want to eat fish, but they don't have access to it financially. Wow. What does it take a government that is serious? A government that says it wants to address food security. A government that says it wants a healthy citizen or citizenry through balanced diet, balanced ration. A government that wants to address, acute and pervasive malnutrition in Nigeria, especially in the north. What is such a government supposed to do? One would have expected such government should invest massively in agriculture, especially in area of perishable products. Like this fish industry now, what does it take a government to embark on mass construction of cold chain facilities? What does it take the government to invest in food banks, mop up all those products, store them, and begin to sell it to the masses at a subsidized price with the aim of addressing the food need of the mass of the people? But they will not. They are importing. And you know why they import, sir? They are importing because it's cheaper. They make more profit when you import by merely giving out import license. And sometimes, regardless of what they tell us that is duty free, they still collect duty on some of those products. They make more profit from it rather than sitting down, planning, and investing in value chain addition. Today, Nigeria still imports, tomato paste. Notwithstanding the fact that Nigeria literally flowed with tomato production. Nigeria still import fish. Is it the Titus, the mackerel, the one we call mala and things like that? And yet, Nigeria is blessed with vast ocean of water, both brackish, salty, and otherwise. And yet, we are still importing fish. Sir, if the government is serious about addressing food, security or food deficiency or food deficit of the nation, they need to invest. Today, when the glut comes for poultry farmer, you see poultry farmer destroying egg.
Really?
During the late Buhari administration, there was so much glut in the egg industry, the poultry industry, that farmers were burying their own egg.
Wow.
And yet, in countries that take agriculture seriously, they invest in machinery, in infrastructure that they use in developing what is called egg powder. And the industry in Nigeria, confectionery industry, bakery and the like, they import all this egg powder from more serious countries who have done the needful in agriculture. With this one government, as the government invested in agriculture, if you will remember, in 2023 or thereabout, when President Tinubu came to power, he declared an emergency on food security, yes, and he promised to give input, supply seedling and the likes to farmers. Today, that promise is in abeyance. It has not been fulfilled. They imported tractors from Belarus that they said they want to use to increase food production and productivity. Today, those tractors are lying fallow in either the ministry or wherever it is. Farmers have not been given. So in that kind of scenario, why would there not be hunger? Why would there not be strife? Why would there not be insecurity? And meanwhile, if you invest massively in agriculture, all those, materials, whatever, that are used, that are recruited, those guys that are recruited into all this insecurity, they can be engaged productively and paid a better wages that will discourage them from being a recruit or grant for recruitment for all this bandit and banditry. So the government is just deceiving us, and I think it's our time the people themselves beginning to take their destiny into their hand, and that has to be linked with the political alternative. The point is that with the kind of political party we have today, which are largely money bag, they are not going to address the interests of the common people until the common people themselves have their own party. A party of workers, a party of farmers, a party of market women, with a program and policies that addresses the needs of the mass majority. We will remain where we are.
It's actually very sad that when you go around Lagos, unfortunately, 80% of the young men from the north who ride Okada, ask them, have a sit-down meeting with them or have a sit-down discussion with them, you discover that 90% of them or more were farmers who were displaced by insecurity. Today, they are all over Lagos driving Okada rather than being in their farm. But I'd love you to speak to us just before we round up for today. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, before his election, prior to 2023, he made lots of promises. I remember one of the statements he said that in order to improve nutrition for our children, he said, and I love to paraphrase him, that every child needs an egg a day. As at the time, Mr. Nicholas, the egg was sold for about 75 naira, 50 naira to 75 naira. Today, an egg sells for 200 naira. What do you think at this point those in the sector like you and more can do to attract the attention of the government, to see what they had promised before and what they are not delivering, and where both parties can meet at the center?
Thank you very much, sir. Number one is to say that the youth from the north in Lagos, as a result of the displacement by all these bandits and Boko Haram and things like that, is not limited to Lagos alone. All the major cities within the south, you find all of them. And it's not just the north alone, the northern youth, even the southern youth, southwest youth here, even in Jebode here in Abeokuta, you find graduates of higher institution riding Okada to make ends meet because there is no viable employment in the country. That is number one. Number two is to say that egg is not just the one you call 200 naira, sir, is what is known as the pullet. That is when the chicken just start laying. That is the smallest of egg. Really? when you grade them. So that is the smallest category that is sold for 200 per one. If you want to buy the extra large or the big, it go as much as 250 and 300 per one. Today, a crate of medium-sized egg sells for 5,500 to 6,000 naira. That is how bad it has become. That's number one. Number two is that during the administration of late President Buhari, there is what is known as the school feeding scheme, where the children were fed, even though the food was nothing to write home about. Of course, there was semblance of feeding the children. But today, that scheme is no longer running. And just like what you said, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu promised, it has always been promise upon promise without actualization or without fulfilling it. It's in his DNA, if there's anything like that. But the point is this, as I have said, it's not just a personal failing. It's not an individual failing of the president or the political class. It is this systemic. It's the system we are running. And as long as this system continues, we can't go anywhere. And why would there not be hunger in the land? Why would there not be acute malnutrition? Fuel subsidy has been removed. Transportation now, it has gotten over the roof. And the roads themselves are not in good shape. To transport those farm produce from the farm gate down to where they are sold has become an Herculean task. Added to that is the devaluation of the naira. And electricity tariff has also been increased. Just name them. And government is not investing in housing, mass housing scheme. Today now, rent for houses has gone up. People are being milked everywhere, not just in the city, even in the town and villages where you usually have free accommodation before. That is no longer, available. And that is because of the anti-poor policies of the government. Sir, these things we are talking are not rocket science. To develop society is not as difficult as this element make it seems. No. What does it take? Awolowo and Co. did this thing before now, and they have limited resources. But because of the world relation, we had an alternative system, which is socialism, as represented by the USSR at that time, and the capitalist system as represented by the West, the US and Britain. And they discovered that socialism was encroaching to other countries, contesting with capitalist menace and anarchy. They were forced to begin to develop society. They begin to invest in education. They begin to invest in health. They begin to invest in public water. They invested in housing. All these things they are not mere theory. They are not mere sloganeering. We see them. They are visible. They are concrete evidence of the past glorious era. But this present crop of leadership you have today, they are just not interested in the needs of the mass majority, and that in itself is not so accidental. Of course, as a result of the contradictions of what happens in the USSR under Joseph Stalin, and the eventual demise of that system in the USSR and the balkanization of the USSR itself, there was a mass campaign, there was a mass blackmail by the Western media against socialism. And people are beginning to be suspicious of socialism, or not just socialism, of the deformed worker state as represented by the USSR of that era. And that it was at the beginning of that, people like Fukuyama, the social commentator Fukuyama and writer, says that end of history, that socialism has collapsed, which was not the case. Today now, we have practiced capitalism for so many decades now, and people are beginning to see that capitalism does not hold the solution to humanity, and that capitalism is rife with crises, and that capitalism is either barbarism, as we are having it now, or we have socialism and the liberation of humanity, where society is run on the basis of equity, on the basis of need, and on the basis of ensuring that every human have a semblance of life that befits a human being.
It's actually interesting, to have this conversation with you. I just sincerely hoped that we had enough time to do some more, discussion, but for the want of time, we just have to leave it at this point. Thank you so very much, Mr. John Nicholas, for being here. We truly do appreciate you. I personally enjoyed our conversation for today. Thank you as always. I just hope that your schedule is not that tight enough that possibly when we call you any other time, hopefully you would find the time to help us.
I will always be available, sir. It's a pleasure having me, and very, very grateful to your media house. For finding it proper to invite us to to also share our thoughts. On issues as it affects the country.
Thank you so very much. So that was John Nicholas.
Thank you very much.
National Coordinator Food and Farmers' Rights Campaign, and equally the Coordinator Campaign for Democratic and Workers' Rights, Ogun State Chapter, and a NEC member of the Democratic Socialist Movement, DSM. And that's about the time we have for today. We'd love to say thank you so very much for being here. Wherever you have watched, you've streamed from around the world, we'd love to say thank you so very much for making the picture complete. But please do well to visit us. You can read up on everything we've talked about with Mr. Nicholas when you visit us at enterprisetvnews.com. You may equally rewatch, download and share to friends and your folks everything we've talked about, if you may, when you visit us at Enterprise TV7. I am Henry Igubike. Have yourself a splendid day. God bless Nigeria. God bless you. And I'll see you on another episode. Bye-bye from me.